Hey everyone, this is Tommy Black, and welcome to 5 or More Questions, episode number 25. On this show, I talk with friends of mine about their current projects, stories they've never told before, and their connection to the Viper Room on the Sunset Strip. Today, we're talking to Peter Thorn, a.k.a. Pete, a very accomplished guitar player. He's played with many greats such as Don Henley, Chris Cornell, Melissa Etheridge, just to name a few. He's actually more known for his YouTube channel. He does amp and pedal reviews. He has over 166,000 followers at this point. So let's give him a call. Pete Thorn.
What's happening?
Peter Thorn. Pete Thorn.
Mr. Black.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. All right. Peter, tell us your story. Where are you from?
I grew up in Canada, in Edmonton, Canada, and I was there until I was 19, and then I decided I got to move to the Sunset Strip.
At 19? At 19?
Yeah, I was 19.
I was like 20, I think, or 19. That's interesting. And you, what year was, well, don't tell the year. You don't have to tell the year. And
it was a long time ago.
Many moons.
Yeah.
You moved for the gold rush on the Sunset Strip.
Well, actually, I wanted to go to MI because number one, I was from Canada, so it was like to try and convince your parents at 19 that that was a good idea to move and play guitar in a foreign country. At least like a school was probably a valid excuse.
Yeah.
You know, and it also, I was able to get some funding from, they've got pretty good student loan programs and stuff like that up there. So I actually got a grant and a student loan, and that sort of facilitated me getting down and at least, setting me up for a little bit. And
I didn't know you did MI. I'm actually an MI dropout.
Oh, yeah?
I think I did a phase. I did like one of the there were 3 phases, I think, back then, right? I think.
I can't remember exactly. It was a year. There was only 2 programs in MI back then. There was the full year, which was like a certificate program. They didn't yet have a degree program, which they do now. You can actually get a degree there, a 3-year, 4-year, or whatever. But so it was a 1-year program or a summer program, which was just like 6 or 8 weeks or something, and you could do either. So I did the 1-year thing.
That's cool.
And made it all the way through and all that. But yeah,
cool. And then after that, what was your first? What bands were you gigging around LA in?
Well, so after that, I had to figure out what to do with myself. So I actually met some folks that were really pivotal in my whole career path and development. There's a guy named Frank Symes who at the time was playing in a band. He had a band that was, what were they called? I can't remember the name of the band. We ended up renaming it because I joined, and we called it the Surreal McCoys. But it was basically like it was like a pop band, really, like a pop rock, but in the kind of very Beatle-y kind of tradition, 4-piece. And Frank played with like a lot of heavy, like about as heavy as it got. At the time, he was touring with Don Henley, and he also had just gotten a Mick Jagger gig.
Wow!
So he was, he did the Wandering Spirit album, and I don't think they did any tours, but they did a few gigs surrounding the release of that record. So he did that record with Mick, and he played with Warren Zevon and like all these like cool people at the time. And I thought, this is a great guy to know. And it was really him and his circle of friends and stuff that gave me my first sort of foray. And I always say, like, there was the Hollywood, and then there was North Hollywood,
right?
Because there was like the musicians on the other side of the hill that were maybe a little bit older and were like, gigging sidemen, studio people. They work in the studios a lot. They weren't necessarily in like rock bands playing in Hollywood, but they were like doing a lot of work, and they had music careers.
Smart.
So
smart crew to be
yes,
with. Yes,
it was, and it was really luck. It was luck that I fell in with those folks, and really, it was pivotal because that affected how I. Not that there's anything wrong with playing in bands and stuff. There is, but as you know, the amount of people that kind of hit it with that is kind of 1 in a million compared to, if you can take a sort of the long career path and throw 100 things at the wall and see what sticks, doing different gigs and stuff. It's sort of maybe
more practical.
Maybe more practical and a better long-term gamble.
Yeah, it's all a gamble.
As far as a career. It's all we pretty much gamble with our lives playing music. It's true. But at the time, of course, this was you. Of course, you remember too. It was the time when it was like you had to do the song and dance and get a big record deal, and there was no putting out. I mean, there was independent music, but really there wasn't a hell of a lot. It was all about, especially in LA, getting a deal and impressing people that would help you get to the next level and stuff. And the amount of people that were actually doing that was few and far between. So, anyways, it was just a really lucky thing that I fell in with those folks. Having said that, the band that I was doing with Frank that I joined, that was his original project. And so he was writing songs, trying to get a deal and stuff like that with his things. So it was kind of a combination of both, because these were people that did a lot of sessions and gigs as side people touring and stuff like that, but they also pursued their own original music and so that and not only that, we actually did a lot of gigs as a cover band just to practice and play, and we would throw our originals in. So outside of LA, like in places like Corona and Pasadena, we'd be like playing on the doing like 3-set kind of cover gigs and stuff, and that was important to me too, because to see a guy that played with folks like Henley and Mick Jagger and stuff like that play for $60 a night and pour his heart into his guitar and sing just like he would in front of an arena of people, that was really important, because it was like, oh, he doesn't ever phone it in. And nobody in the band did. They were real professionals. They played like really great and sang really great, and they always turned it on and gave it their all. So that was super important to me. And that was like the first, my first, sort of foray into playing music.
Wow.
And stuff like that in LA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, well, it's humbling, and it's the way it should be done, and that's those are good people to be hanging with right when you first get into town.
I got really lucky.
Yeah.
I got lucky because I didn't know. It could have been anything. Who knows who I could have gotten in.
No, good tools. Good tools to learn.
Yeah.
But you were playing with some signed bands early on, also. What you were doing? It was like the Barry Squire kind of circuit, almost, right?
Well, yeah, and that's right around the time I met you. Just the year previous to me meeting you, and starting to get in with folks like Barry and joining some other signed bands, we finally got a deal in that band. I was like kind of back and forth working with a band to Canada and stuff like that, and back and forth writing songs. And long story short, over a period of about 4 or 5 years, we demoed and recorded about 50 tunes. And eventually we got a record deal. We did get signed in Japan, only for Japan and the Southeast Asia market, but it was a record deal, and it was fairly lucrative. So it's like we all made some advance money, and it never really went anywhere, but we did put out an album, and that was, okay, now I'm a professional musician, with this deal and stuff. And so it lasted about a year, and then it kind of petered out, and then I needed to start looking for things. And that's around the time that I found Barry and started looking and doing auditions in LA, and met you. You were in the band Sparkler, and I worked with you guys for about 6 months, I think. And I started doing more and more auditions, and it was funny because then it sort of went between me playing in original bands and then also me getting a gig as a side guy sometimes, and then going out on a tour for 6 months or a year, and then I would get in another original band, and then I would get in another side gig, and just back and forth until about 2003 or something would be the last time I probably did a full on, like the deal, like we're an original band, all for one for all. We're all going to get in the band, and the label's paying us $500 a week, and we're going to go out and try and make a go of it and have a hit,
Yeah.
And
it's rough.
Yeah, so I did a few of those, and meanwhile I was getting different side gigs and touring as to folks like there was a band called Blink of the Star. It was a DreamWorks band. They hired me to play guitar for a while. That was a side gig. There was Adam Cohen, Leonard Cohen's son.
Cool band.
I played with him for. Yeah,
Wait,
stuff like that.
Hold on, let's stop a few here. Adam Cohen. I remember I went to see you play with Adam Cohen at Largo, and big fan of Leonard Cohen, as we all are. And freaking Leonard Cohen was there, and I got to meet Leonard Cohen.
Yeah,
that's the
he
best.
Would go out. He would hang.
He would hang. Yeah, I was like,
he came. I remember Chris Still's birthday party one year, and I almost sat on Leonard. He was like sitting right behind me on the couch, and I probably had a couple drinks, and I remember almost falling over and realized Leonard was right behind me.
He was decked.
I thought I better not fall on.
Decked to the nines, and I was like, I just wanted to meet you. Here you go. Shake hand. That's it. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. I didn't say nothing else. Yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal for me at that time at Largo. And I think it was like Adam was probably playing like a Rufus Wainwright show or something like that too. That was like a whole cool scene you were part of, that Largo thing. But
for a minute.
Yeah,
that was a cool scene. It was cool. Adam was just getting going, and he's since gone on to have quite a cool career, both in France and in, he puts out English language albums and French language albums, and then he also, I believe he produced Leonard's last album.
Wow.
Before he passed away. So, yeah, Adam's a cool cat, and he's still really active and doing all kinds of stuff all the time. But it was a neat scene,
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, and it was a good time in L.A. too, right?
Right, good time musically.
Kind of.
Another one I remember.
Yeah, late 90s.
You were playing also with some project with Aaron Spelling's daughter or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's another Peter Thorn story. We went bowling over at like Aaron Spelling's house. He had like a little bowling alley in his house.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and house is like, I think it was, at the time at least, it was the biggest single family dwelling in the United States.
Oh, really?
Like 500 rooms, and that house was just like, it was bonkers, right?
Yeah, bonkers. Valet parking.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly. These are these LA things.
Elevators.
Yeah.
Proper tap and
bar.
Yeah, security. The house.
Yeah.
But bowling,
and Aaron would be hanging out in his robe, and and it was cool.
I think it was like a 1 or 2 lane bowling alley, though. It was like just one. I think it was a one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Two lanes.
Two lanes.
Two lanes and 2 lanes and a full bar with like beer on tap and the whole 9 yards and video games. Yeah, it was his house was amazing. It was, and that was actually a band that was Randy Spelling, his son, was sort of trying to start a label and stuff, and he was a really nice guy. He has since gone on to be kind of like a life coach and motivational speaker guy, I think. But he had a girlfriend, and her name was Anna Lee Ferry, and she had this band called Box, and that was it. It was, and I was doing it with Eric Aldenas on drums, and he now plays with Billy Idol, and it was Jürgen Carlson on bass, who now plays in Government Mule for the last 10 years.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't. Yeah. It was his son managing the band, not his daughter. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So all those fun stories lead to when did you played with a lot of greats. Don Henley, Chris Cornell, Messiah Etheridge. Let's start with, what's the order of that? What was the next one after that?
Well, so that's actually a pretty good segue, because that's right around 2000, 2001, something like that. I got my side career I got in the band with Five for Fighting. I toured with them for about a year, and they had a big hit in a song called Superman. So that was kind of my first step up, as like they were selling like 25,000 units a week, and it was going good. We were out on tour with Goo Goo Dolls, playing festivals and stuff, and it was like, I'm getting there. Like, it's stepping up,
Yeah.
And then after that, it was kind of, Robbie Draco Rosa, who's a big Latin star. People, not as many people know him in the U.S., but he did write and produced, Ricky Martin's biggest hits, like Live La Vida Loca and She Bangs and all that kind of stuff. So he, obviously did really well with that. It was super lucrative, and then he had a great recording studio, and he has an amazing career. He's won Latin Grammys and stuff, and all kinds of stuff like that. He let me see, Vagabundo.
You've had a lot of international success. I've noticed even from the beginning, like you said, the guys in Japan, that got signed in Japan. It was always like, oh, Pete's going to Japan, or he's going to Mexico or something. It's just like,
yeah, and that was so Robbie's Draco's gig, I mean, that was the first kind of international sort of stuff. It's the first time I'd done anything like that. And it was like, we're going to Spain all the time. We're going to Latin America. We're going to Brazil. We're going to, that was the first time I really had experienced that. And that's a lot of fun because it's a whole other world once you start doing those gigs. But after I did Draco's gig for a little while, then it was, let me see, the next touring gig was Jewel, which I did we toured with Rob Thomas and had a pretty good year around 2006. I started working in the studio a lot with Linda Perry around that time and making records with, all kinds of folks, Alicia Keys and Daniel Powder and a bunch of people, Courtney Love. And then after that was Chris Cornell. The next year was 2007.
Okay.
I did that audition, got the gig.
Slow down. How about Jewel? She's amazing, right? I mean,
she's amazing. Yeah. She sold about 28 million records or something like that, and has a incredible career really unto herself. And so I did that for. Yeah, it was one album cycle.
Cool.
And it was a fun tour.
Now that led to Linda Perry. You were in her studio band. I would guess like Linda's studio band or writing band or something like that.
I was in her studio band, and I met her through Courtney Love actually.
Wow, what's cool? Most of the people you played with here are pretty intense people. And then Courtney introduced you to Linda. Now, how you did some touring with Courtney Love also, or writing?
I didn't do any touring with her, but we did some live playing around LA, and there were some situations where she was having some issues with because after we made a record with Courtney that never was released, and it's in the can and it's done, and I wish people could hear it because it's actually a really cool record, but. We did it with like Billy Corgan and myself and Linda and Paul Ill, Nate Weatherington on drums, and Damon who plays keys. You probably know. He plays in the Cult now as well.
Yeah,
guitar,
Big Elf, and
Big Elf. That's right.
Cool band.
So that was the core band and Billy as well. And so we made this really cool record that never ended up coming out, but she went back and did a kind of basically Whole again, but it was all different people. There's none of the original people, but she called it Whole and made another record. And so some of the tunes that we had done for the record ended up on that album. So I got a few co-writes on that last Whole record. And we went out and played a little bit because she couldn't get the whole band she'd put together, as Whole. Sometimes the guitar player couldn't make it over and stuff like that. So I ended up going doing a bunch of like Jay Leno and Jimmy Kimmel show and stuff like that, but it was under the name Whole. So, anyways, it was interesting. Always an adventure playing with Courtney.
Yeah. Talent though, really. I mean, true talent.
Yeah. Raw punk rock.
Yeah,
talent,
exactly.
So deal.
What was after Courtney?
The
Courtney
kind
Linda
of during and right after was Chris Cornell. So that I went and did that audition, got that gig, and ended up basically the next 3 years I was off with him. On tour and stuff. We played about I think it was over 300 shows in the next few years, and just.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to ask about Chris. Okay, and then from Cornell?
Right out of Chris's band, he was kind of winding it down around early 2010, and he was getting ready to do his songbook tour and tour solo acoustic, and we all sensed it was ending. It seemed like it was slowing down. And so I started looking around and I guess it was the end of 2009 actually that I got a call to see if I'd be interested in doing Don's band. And it was funny because I'd auditioned for the Don Henley touring guitar spot back in 2000, and I was beat out by Peter Stroud, great, terrific guitar player, plays with Sheryl Crow and many folks over the years. But anyways, I got the call again 9 years later, around 2009, and I managed to get the gig that time. So then right out of touring with Chris, I just started touring in the fall of 2009 with Don, which was, really a big highlight for me because I once again many years earlier tried to try to get that gig, and it hadn't worked out. And that was kind of the one that got away in a lot of ways, and I really wanted to do it. And then it all happened. So
was that like private jets? And I mean, was that like, how was what?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, how
yeah.
is it? Yeah. How was touring with Don
Yeah.
Henley? I mean, I've heard a lot of stories.
Well, it's amazing because you're playing that music at the core, you know, and he runs a tight ship, and he's you know, he likes things to go well. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as everything's going well and the band's firing on all cylinders and all that, and everybody's doing their job, he's happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing but, you know, great experiences with him and good things to say. He's a charming guy. He's a gentleman. He's a I don't want to say he's like a tough boss, but he's like, you just have to do your job.
Yeah.
And I like to do a good job. So as long as you come in knowing your parts with great sounds, you know, if something's wrong, you know, like if he wants you to turn down, just go turn down. If he asks for something different, do it different the way he asks. And as long as you do that, then it's pretty good, really. And he's you know, at the end of the day, you stand up there and in the encore, you play, you know, Hotel California and Desperado, and you're like, well, this is pretty world class right now.
Wow.
It doesn't get much, you know. It's just like, wow, this is, you know, and the feeling at the end of the gig is always like a job well done. Like, wow, that was, I feel like a feeling of accomplishment or something.
Solid, tight ship.
Yeah, you're never phoning it in, you know. You don't do your best and stuff. So, and I hadn't played with him for quite a few years, and I just got to do a gig with him a couple weeks ago, which was a private thing. But I worked with him from 2009 to 2015, and then about 2-3 weeks ago, I got to do one more show with him. Cool. I was also on tour in Japan for just about all of 2015, and so he had to find somebody to replace me because I wasn't around when he was starting a new tour, and so you know, as it goes sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, and who? Geez, this is never ending. I don't know if this is who the never-ending tour. And who is it? Was it in Japan with then? Again, you're back to Japan. Full circle.
After Dawn, I ended up with actually there's a couple more things. I won't drone on too long.
No
but
worries,
after Dawn, it was actually during playing with Dawn, I managed to play with Melissa Etheridge as well, and it just never really collided the schedule. So I got a gig with her, and I toured with Melissa for a couple of years, or 3 years, I guess, from 2010 or 2011 through 2013. And then I got a tour with a French artist named Mylène Farmer, and I went over and toured with her for the back half of 2013. I was in France, which was really fun. I got to be over there for about 5 months and do her gig. And then the following year after that, I got a gig in Japan with Yoshi Nagabuchi. So 2014, 2015, who I still work with. And he's a wonderful guy and a trip. He's been around since about the 70s. And
I see the post. It's like huge. He's like U2 of Japan, it looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's like a singer-songwriter, kind of, you know, big production, big show, not unlike maybe like a Springsteen or something like that, but over in Japan.
Huge scale.
Yeah. I love Japan, so it's super fun to go over there and work with him.
Your YouTube thing, can you elaborate on that for me?
Well, so that started about 10 years ago, and basically what it amounts to is I started making a lot of videos that were like product demonstrations, essentially, where it was like, hey, here's this new pedal from this company, and this is what it sounds like. And I always tried to do it within kind of a musical context and, you know, make a little song, essentially, for every video, show how a piece of gear works, but not just playing like guitar licks through it, actually playing like writing a piece of music, and that kind of became my thing. And it just sort of became more and more a big part of what I do. It's something that I can do when I'm not on tour, or maybe when I don't even have a gig. Generally speaking, like there's two sides to this industry. I always think of it as there's the music industry and then there's the music instrument industry. If you can kind of work in both of them, it's kind of neat. It's pretty cool because there's a lot of work there. All these companies, you know, content is kind of king. And, you know, they need you know, videos for their websites, and they want, you know, promotional help so they get the word out about when they're putting something out. And so it's just become kind of like a weird, like, second music career, or sort of a session career, because really I'm like working in my studio, creating content for them, but I'm writing songs and playing music. I'm just, like trying to plug in whatever the piece of gear is that I'm making a video for and get inspired by the tone and then come up with a piece of music that accentuates or best shows off the strengths of the gear. And it's actually been really fun, Yeah. And it's fun and it provides me with sort of a second source of income that when I'm not on tour, which is a great freedom because as you know, it's like, it can be a great thing to be touring and getting gigs and going out on the road with people, and that sort of thing. But when that artist decides to, maybe take a break for a year, or maybe they want to get a different band just to get a different sound or something, all of a sudden you could be out of a job and now you're hunting for the next thing all the time, the next tour, and you're kind of reliant on other people. And you're really only making money when you're away, like you got to leave all the time. So maybe you don't want to tour all the time. You might want to stay home. And just be home, and so it's given me the ability to kind of do that more.
No, it's
have some control.
Best of both worlds, and I think you're like, I checked before the call. You're like at 166,000 subscribers right now. That's so huge.
Yeah, it's great. It's not to me. It's like actually. Because recently in the last couple of years, I've been going to these conventions to meet other people that kind of do what I do or do it a similar thing, but a little bit different. And, when you look at people that are out there in the YouTube world, like Leo from Frogleaf Studios or Paul Davids or Rick Beato, these folks are all, in the 1 million plus subscriber. And so I become like the student then, and it's like, well, how do I get to that? And so that's a fascinating kind of thing. It's a whole nother world, but it's really fun because the neat thing about all the people in the YouTube world is it's sort of like they're all running a small business. They're all self-starters. They all created it on their own. They're all doing something slightly different from one another. And it's just like a really fun thing that's different than just playing in a band or doing sessions playing guitar. It's like this whole other angle that like almost like it feels like a hobby that's exciting and different,
it's a really cool creative outlet, and it leads to you, like you said, you're writing stuff while you're doing original things. You're not just playing riffs, and you had your record release party thing down at the Viper, and you do stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, it gave me another, like all of a sudden your name's getting out there and you're the artist. It's like, well, now I can kind of put out my own records. Like, because when I put out a record in 2011, my first solo album, instrumental guitar record, and I had no idea like how well it was going to be received. And I was kind of right on the cusp of when people were still paying for records,
right?
Buying CDs and that kind of thing. My crowd, like the folks that are into what I do anyway, is a little bit older, so it's like they still buy things like CDs. So that works out good, but it is pretty cool. It's like I can put out records, I can put out music. The YouTube thing has given me kind of a notoriety, outside of being a side guy or whatever, playing with other people. Right. It's given me my own thing, and that's just it's just all feeds into the same kind of the career path or something, and helps you have options, and and it's just neat. It's fun. It's like you don't really need, when you're your own boss and you're not on a label, if you're just independent, but you're sharing music and stuff over the internet and stuff, you don't really need to have actually like 1 million people buying your record. No. You can have 1,000 people buying your record. And if you're not sharing that pie with everybody, you can actually make a little living, and it's like running a small business, and it's actually really cool, and hopefully it grows and grows and grows, gets bigger, but it doesn't actually have to be like, it's a different kind of world these days, you don't have to be Bon Jovi to make a living,
Distribution isn't an issue, you know what I mean? So it's,
right.
You're doing it all yourself. It's really cool.
Yeah. You're doing it all yourself. That's right. And you mentioned the party at the Viper Room. I mean, that was actually like the now defunct Pledge of Music, which was good for when it lasted. But we did a Pledge Music campaign, which was kind of like a crowd funded release for my second record. Sorry. Right. That's a thing you can do where it's like you can, make up 100 T-shirts, and I'll make up, however many CDs and do this, and folks will actually they're fans. They want to support you, and they want to, so that was a part of it. Was the record release party was part of the package for the pledge thing, and people come, and we gave away prizes and stuff. It was just really cool. It's like you can do these things and actually eke out a little living as a musician, and fans want to support. They know you're doing it indie style, and it's it's just really cool, kind of grassroots way of. It's funny because there's a lot of musicians in this town that will grumble about not being able to make a living, and it's so hard now, and all this kind of stuff. And then there's these other folks, which are, like I say, the YouTube people that I've met, and folks that are doing things a different way, and they're just doing fine, And it's like, so that's what I want to be around, I want to be around that kind of, because it ain't going back, and it's the Wild West, and it's wide open what you do these days.
It's kind of how you started, though. You started with, and you're looking for something that's not the norm. You're not hanging out in Hollywood playing in local bands. You're
right.
Yeah, you're looking in a different area, which is very smart. All right.
Yeah, that's great too. I mean, it's great to play in bands and write songs and play music.
But you do
it's
that.
Terrific to do it all.
You do that too. But I mean, you're looking in other new areas. Okay, give me a story about the Viper Room.
Oh man, the Viper Room. So many things have happened to me at the Viper Room. The first thing that I remember happening, the thing that popped into my head was the night that my 335 got its headstock broken off on the sidewalk in front of the Viper Room.
Ow.
Yeah, but I've had so many things happen at the Viper Room. I've done like so many record company showcases there, and had so many fun parties. God, I remember going there before it was the Viper Room. And that's, now I'm really dating myself, but I remember seeing Richie Kotzen there when he was like, I don't know, like we were probably both about 21 years old or something like that, or 20 or something, just pre-Viper Room.
Wow.
When it was the Central.
Yeah.
So that room, man, I mean, I don't know how many countless gigs, and all the way through to my second record release party that I've had there. So it's like it's bonkers. But I mean, I've played there with you numerous times. Just about every band I've ever been in, it seems like, has probably played there at some time or another.
Wow.
So it's a legendary place.
You played with at my wedding. You played with Kevin Martin. You played some songs. We had a reception there. You played there.
Good old Rick Parker.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, right? I mean, your wedding reception was there. It's crazy. You think about all the times,
all the weird times. Yeah, I've seen you in a bunch of things there, and lately you keep showing up at the Monday night jams, which are cool, and you're going to be there tonight.
Well, I think we're going to play tonight.
Yeah. We're playing.
I got to go over that song too. After you let me go, I got to pull out the Telecaster. I don't know how that song goes. We're going to jam on tonight.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, I guess we'll be seeing you tonight then over at the club. Good talking with you, Peter. Thank you for your time.
Hey, man, it's an honor, and you're one of my oldest friends in LA. That's always great to chat with you.
Oh, thank you. You too. Yeah. You're a great guy. Keep on.
Well,
I always enjoy when your YouTube stuff pops up on my screen. I'm like, oh, let's check out Pete. But anyway.
Well, please don't stop watching, and I'll see you in about an hour and a half. We'll play some rock.
All right, cool. See ya.
Okay, see you in a bit.